Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 2nd of December and we are going to deal with three very important topics which are in news. The first topic which we are going to deal with today is NASA and ISRO. Actually, both these space agencies, NASA, as we know, is the space agency of USA, ISRO, India, they have come together on multiple, I would say, aspects. Two of the aspects of NASA and ISRO's partnership, which we are going to deal with in this topic, is first, NASA is going to train Indian astronauts to go on the International Space Station. International Space Station is an observatory which is in the low Earth orbit, around 400 kilometers from the surface of the Earth. And this is going to happen in 2024, means an Indian astronaut will go to International Space Station by end of 2024. And for that purpose, NASA is going to train that Indian astronaut. Why Indian astronaut is wanting to go to ISS? There are multiple reasons. First, and the primary reason is that the Prime Minister of India has said that by 2035, India is going to have its own space station in the low Earth orbit. And for that, we need trained personnel who will go up and do the research work there and come back. Apart from it, Gaganyaan mission is also scheduled to be launched in 2024. Gaganyaan mission is basically a manned mission by India to the low Earth orbit. So the person which or whom NASA will train for going to ISS probably will be the same person who is going on mission Gaganyaan also. So this is there. The first aspect of partnership between NASA and ISRO is NASA is going to train an Indian astronaut, and that Indian astronaut will travel to the Indian space station by the end of 2024. Second aspect is NASA ISRO aperture radar, NISAR, NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar. Now this is a satellite which is, I would say, an Earth observation satellite which will observe the I would say biodiversity on Earth and the complex processes which are impacting the biodiversity. All these will be covered by this satellite. So these two aspects, NASA and ISRO, are currently partnering with each other, and both of these aspects are very important from UPSC point of view. So this is there. Then, next topic which we're going to cover is Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA. This Prevention of Money Laundering Act is basically Supreme Court gave a recent, I would say, judgment. He said that, the Supreme Court said that those offenses which are listed under this act, for those offenses only, probe will happen. So that is why this was in news, and it becomes very important for us from internal security point of view. That is part of GS3. And last topic which we're going to cover is greenwashing. Greenwashing, frequently this term is in news, so this is kind of a generic term. Some of you have asked this question to me also personally, but yes, I thought that this should be known to everyone, and since the COP28 is going on, so this term will be again and again in news. So we should know what greenwashing is. So it is nothing but when countries or companies claim any project of theirs to be environment friendly, but actually it is not. So that concept or that phenomenon is known as greenwashing. So these three topics which we are going to cover today. And let's get started with the first topic, that is NASA and ISRO. NASA will train an Indian astronaut for a mission to the International Space Station by the end of 2024. This is one aspect. Second is NISAR satellite, NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar, which will also be launched in the first quarter of 2024. These are the two aspects on which NASA and ISRO are collaborating as of now. This first aspect, if we talk about, NASA will train an Indian astronaut for International Space Station. International Space Station is, I would say, a space station which is orbiting somewhere around 400 kilometers from the Earth's surface. It is orbiting the Earth. Purpose is research. This International Space Station is a collaborative effort by USA, Russia, European Space Agency, and Japanese Space Agency, along with the Canadian Space Agency. It was, I would say, launched way back in 1998 or 1990s, I think it was launched. And Russia recently last year said that, or I think in the beginning of 2023 said that it is going to withdraw from International Space Station. It is going to launch its own space station. International Space Station will be dysfunctional in itself completely by 2031. That has been the predictions done by these space agencies. Many astronauts, they go to the International Space Stations, conduct research over there, stay there for a few months, and then come back. We might have seen multiple videos on social media where astronauts are there in the International Space Station and are doing their activities. Now, this time, an Indian astronaut will be traveling to the International Space Station, and for that purpose, NASA is going to train that Indian astronaut. Who is going to be that Indian astronaut? Probably the one who is going to be part of mission Gaganyaan. Gaganyaan is India's manned mission to I would say low Earth orbit, which is also expected 2024-25. So this is basically the topic which we will deal with in detail. Now let us start with it. NASA and ISRO, or NASA will train an Indian astronaut for mission to International Space Station. This mission will happen in end of 2024. This was revealed by organization's administrator, Bill Nelson, during his Delhi visit. He also said another major program between NASA and ISRO is the NISAR satellite, which is going to be launched in the first quarter of 2024. So the year 2024 is going to be, I would say, a landmark year or a very important year with respect to NASA's and ISRO's partnership. So let's see how things go. Now, the details of this, I would say, training of that Indian astronaut. That Indian astronaut will fly to the ISS by the end of 2024, already known to us, would be selected by ISRO, that person. The selection will likely be from among the 4 persons who have undergone basic space astronaut training in preparation for the Gaganyaan mission. Gaganyaan mission we've covered in earlier videos. It is, I would say, a manned mission planned to the low Earth orbit by India. And this is going to be India's first indigenous manned mission to space, mission Gaganyaan. Actually, it had to be launched by 2022, but due to COVID, it got delayed. So this is there. Apart from these astronauts in the Gaganyaan mission, one, I would say, robot is also traveling. Now, some details about International Space Station we need to understand. And it is very, very important, this International Space Station, because this year, that is 2023, we are celebrating 25 years of International Space Station, because International Space Station was launched in the year 1998. It is a testament to international collaboration and scientific advancements in space exploration. International collaboration between various space agencies. Which space agencies? NASA of United States, Roscosmos, Russia, European Space Agency, JAXA of Japan, and CSA, that is Canadian Space Agency. So since 1998, these space agencies have been collaborating, and they have collaboratively launched this International Space Station to conduct space research and exploration. Orbit and operations of International Space Station. It is basically located somewhere around 400 kilometers from the surface of the Earth. It orbits Earth approximately every 90 minutes and traveling at a speed of 28,000 kilometers per hour. So every 90 minutes, this International Space Station goes above our head in the space. That is above 400 kilometers above our head. Crew missions to the ISS typically last several months, because they are going for doing research over there. And, research cannot be completed in a day or 2 or a week. It takes several months, with astronauts conducting scientific research, technology demonstrations, maintenance, and experiments crucial for understanding long-duration space flights on the human body. So this all, activities happen over there in the International Space Station. Now, there are various reasons why that Indian astronaut is being trained by NASA to go to the International Space Station. One of the major reasons why this Indian astronaut is being trained is the Indian space station. This Indian space station is, I would say, an envisaged project by government of India, and we have planned this space station by 2035. So the Indian Prime Minister has said that it is expected to be completed by 2035. Recently, PM Modi called on ISRO scientists to set up an Indian space station by 2035 and send an Indian to the moon by 2040 also. This is what we are planning for the future. And if we want to make this a reality, that is Bharatiya Antariksh Station, it will be called as, then we need people who are trained to go to that international space stations beforehand. And by 2024, if this becomes successful, this training becomes successful, that Indian astronaut is going to the international space station, then it is going to be beneficial for us for our Bharatiya Antariksh Station as well. Now, features of the Indian space station: it will be smaller than International Space Station. It will have mass of 20 tons. International Space Station is 450 tons, and Chinese Tiangong, Chinese have launched its own space station that is 100 tons, but ours is going to be 20 tons and will be used for microgravity experiments. It will orbit Earth at an altitude of around 400 kilometers. The orbiting, I would say, height is going to be the same. So this is going to be the basic features of the Indian space station. But yes, one disclaimer I would want to give you is that these features can be altered with time, because there's a lot of time from 2023 to 2025, 10, 12 years, big 10, 12 years. And if the scientists in ISRO feel that, let's suppose we want to increase the mass of the international or the Indian space station or the Bharatiya Antariksh Station, they can increase. So these are tentative figures which are there in front of us right now. These figures can change in future as well. So this is going to be one thing. The next aspect of partnership is NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar. So that has to be understood as well, because the statement made by the administrator of NASA said that one aspect of partnership is training Indian astronauts. Second aspect is this NASA ISRO synthetic aperture radar satellite, which is going to be operational or which is going to be launched in the starting or the first quarter of 2024, that is the upcoming quarter. It is a joint project between NASA and ISRO. If it is launched successfully, NISAR will be the first radar imaging satellite to use dual frequencies. And what kind of frequencies are going to be used in NISAR? There are two frequencies, L band and S band. So we're going to cover it in the next slide. But yes, as of now, you should understand that L band frequency and S band frequency will be there. The mission will survey all of Earth's land and ice covered surfaces every 12 days. It has a 3-year duration, means 2024 to 2027. It is going to be in operation. The main aim of NISAR satellite is what? To observe the most complex natural processes of the planet, including ecosystem disturbances, ice sheet collapse, as well as earthquakes, volcanoes, and landslides. So in a nutshell, disasters, ecosystem, conservation. These are going to be the two, I would say, main areas of focus of NISAR satellite. And obviously, these two domains have drastically, or I would say, very much impacted the humans nowadays. The functions and working of NISAR. NISAR is going to be a low Earth orbit satellite that will measure Earth's changing ecosystems, dynamic surfaces, and ice masses. It will also gather information related to biomass, natural hazards, sea level rise, and groundwater. It will use two distinct radar frequencies. We've already seen L band and S band. It is going to be the first satellite, if it is launched successfully, to be using dual frequencies. Now, what is the significance of using dual frequencies? It will enable it to measure changes on Earth's surface with precision down to less than a centimeter. So it will increase its precision monitoring of the activities happening on the Earth with respect to ecosystem restoration, disasters, and all these aspects. So this was about NASA and ISRO's partnership for the upcoming year 2024. These are the two main projects. One is NISA, second is NASA is going to train an Indian astronaut, and that Indian astronaut will be traveling to the International Space Station by the end of 2024. So these all things we need to understand and know. Now moving on to the second topic, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This Prevention of Money Laundering Act, why it was in news? Because the Supreme Court ruled that criminal conspiracy will be treated as a scheduled offense. Conspiracy is you have not committed, but you have planned to commit an offense. So what kind of offense you have planned to commit? Supreme Court has clearly said that if that offense is listed as an offense under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and for that any conspiracy is there for conspiracy for committing that kind of, I would say, offense, then only that will be treated as a scheduled offense under PMLA. Else it will not be treated. Okay. So it is, that is why it was in news. The Prevention of Money Laundering Act was passed in the year 2002, implementing or under implementation since 2005. It prevents money laundering. Money laundering is what? It is an activity where you make look dirty money as clean money. Now let's suppose if I've earned money by selling drugs, okay, that is dirty money. But what if I make it look like that money is coming to me through legitimate sources? Like I have a business sidewise and I'm selling drugs on the other hand, and I'm making it look like that money which I'm earning by selling drugs is coming to me from my business, and I'm paying taxes on that. So dirty money is converted into clean money. Most of the aspirants, they have this confusion that money laundering is the act of converting black money into white money. No, it is actually concealing the source of money, concealing the source of dirty money, I would say. So that is considered as money laundering. Now, to tackle this, Money Laundering Prevention of Money Laundering Act was passed in the year 2002. Since 2005, it has been under implementation. PMLA is an act of the Parliament of India enacted to prevent money laundering and to provide for confiscation of property derived from money laundering. So, if it is proved that, or if it is under consideration also that if any property is acquired by using that money which has been laundered, then that property has to be sealed. The Act imposed an obligation on banking companies, financial institutions, and intermediaries to verify identity of clients, maintain records, and furnish information in prescribed form to Financial Intelligence Unit India. So, FIU India, we will also cover the details of this particular body. So, any inputs received from this intelligence agency, which is responsible for gathering and disseminating intelligence with respect to financial frauds. So, this act, or I would say this act actually mandates ED, Enforcement Directorate then has to act on those things. Now, key definitions under PMLA: attachment, prohibition of transfer, conversion, deposition, or movement of property by an appropriate legal order. Means if any property is attached, you cannot transfer that property to anyone. Proceeds of crime, any property derived or obtained directly or indirectly by any person as a result of criminal activity relating to a scheduled offense, that is called as proceeds of crime. Money laundering, already explained, but directly or indirectly attempts to indulge or assist another person or who is actually involved in any activity involving criminal proceeds and portraying it as an untainted property. Portraying it as an untainted property means making it look like a clean property, means a property which has been obtained or which has been acquired by using clean money. And last is payment system. Payment system, a system that enables payment to be effected between a payer and a beneficiary. It includes system enabling credit cards, debit cards, smart cards, money transfer, or similar operations. Because you have to circulate the money in order to conceal the source of the dirty money and make it look like clean money. So that is basically payment system through which this happens. Punishments under this act, actually one punishment if anyone is accused is 3 to 7 years. But if that offender actually is also punishable under this Narcotics, Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act 1985, then the maximum punishment may extend to 10 years under PMLA. This is an exception. Adjudication. There are special courts which adjudicate cases with respect to money laundering. Adjudicating authority is the authority appointed by central government through notification to exercise jurisdiction, powers, and authority conferred under PMLA. It decides whether any of the property attached or seized is involved in money laundering or not. This is the duty of this adjudication authority. It shall not be bound by the procedure laid down by the Code of Civil Procedure, but shall be guided by the principles of natural justice and subject to other provisions of this act, that is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, what if this adjudication authority or a tribunal gave a judgment and that judgment is not in your favor, or you are not satisfied with that judgment and you have to appeal against that judgment? So the government has also given, a provision of appellate tribunal where you can appeal. Now, it is the body appointed by the government of India and given the power to hear appeals against orders of the adjudicating authority and any other authority under the Act. Orders of this tribunal can be appealed in the appropriate High Court. Now, you cannot directly go to the High Court or Supreme Court for cases related to money laundering. You have to first go to this adjudicating authority, which is established by the law. Then, if you're not satisfied with the judgment of this adjudicating authority, you have to go to this appellate tribunal. If you are not satisfied, then you have to go to the High Court and then to the Supreme Court. This is basically the path which has to be followed when it comes to adjudication of matters under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Since this Financial Intelligence Unit of India, it was also mentioned in our, I would say, content. So we should know about this as well, because this is also a body which is under the government of India, established in the year 2004 as Central National Agency responsible for receiving, processing, analyzing, and disseminating information. FIU-IND is also responsible for coordinating and strengthening efforts of national and international intelligence. FIU-IND is an independent body reporting directly to the Economic Intelligence Council. This Economic Intelligence Council is headed by the Finance Minister of India. So, some factual information. So, this should be understood and taken as an information for relevance. And now, the last topic, that is greenwashing. In simple sense, in a nutshell, greenwashing is what? When countries or companies, they portray their products or their projects to be environment friendly, and they claim that they are saving this much emissions, or they are saving the environment, or they're conserving the environment to this level, but actually they are not. So it is simply meaning that they are greenwashing it. Greenwashing it means they're making it look like that that is environment friendly, but in actual sense it is not. Many private companies have indulged into this kind of scandal, like for example Volkswagen. Now, it launched a diesel engine which it claimed to be a green diesel engine. Now, that green diesel engine was actually, the company Volkswagen was claiming that it saves, or it emits less, but when actually it was tested, the emissions were at par with the previous engines. So we said that Volkswagen is trying to greenwash it. That is the simple sense of greenwashing. There are certain challenges because we don't have any assessment standards. And in our previous videos, we talked about global stock taking, GST, which is kind of an assessment standard which is going to be set or adopted in this year's COP. Now, if that is adopted, then instances of greenwashing are expected to come down. Now, let us get into the details of this greenwashing. It refers to a range of activities that companies or even countries indulge in to present misleading or dubious claims about their climate action. There is a growing tendency among firms and governments to mark all kinds of activities as climate friendly. Nowadays, let's suppose the developed countries, they have this obligation, $100 billion. They have to invest, or they have to fund projects in the developing and underdeveloped countries. What if the projects are not so environment friendly, but they are marking them as environment friendly? That is greenwashing. While they help in boosting the image of the entity, whether it be company or country, sometimes even helping them garner benefits, they do nothing in the fight against climate change. Actually, they are doing nothing because they are presenting a false picture. And that false picture is very dangerous because, if we consider their claims to be true, these companies or these entities claims to be true, we will be satisfied, okay, we are conserving the environment. But in actuality, we are not doing so. That is, going to have more, I would say, disastrous circumstances for us in the times to come. So that is that is why greenwashing is so dangerous. Some examples of greenwashing. Now, developed countries are often accused of greenwashing their normal business investments in developing countries. Since there is a mandate, according to COP 15, which happened in 2009, $100 billion had to be invested by developed countries in developing and underdeveloped countries. We've covered it in, I would say, the previous video, 29th and 30th of November. Now, whatever investment developed countries are doing in developing countries, they're claiming them as environment friendly. Means they are greenwashing. But actually, they are not environment friendly. That is one thing which we need to understand. That is a classic example of greenwashing. Then the Volkswagen scandal was a case of greenwashing. In this scandal, the German car company was found to have been cheating in emission testing of its supposedly green diesel vehicles. It made green diesel vehicles, and on that, it claimed that emissions are less. That is a green diesel. But in actuality, when emission testing was done, emissions were at par. There was slightly a difference, hardly any difference with the previous engines, which were non-green diesel vehicles. So it is like this. Then several other major corporations like Shell, BP, that is British Petroleum, Coca-Cola, have faced accusations of greenwashing. But since there are no, I would say, standards globally set for assessment, that whether your project or whether your activity is saving how much emissions or saving or conserving the environment, how much, up to what level, it cannot be quantified because there is no global standardized set, I would say, standards for that, which are now being developed under global stock taking. So till then, various entities, whether it be countries or companies, they are taking advantage of this situation. So in this slide, we will see reasons for spread of greenwashing. There is lack of regulation and standardization in most of these spaces. Processes, methodologies, and institutions to measure, report, create standards, verify claims, and grant certifications are still being set up. Also, large number of organizations have sprung up claiming expertise in these areas and offering their services for a fee. So these entities, they say that we are experts of this, but actually their expertise is of no use since there are no global standards set. Many of these organizations lack integrity and robustness, but their services are still availed by corporations because it makes them look good. Corporations, they earn some brownie points, some marketing points. Way forward, obviously, an expert group in this, I would say, in its report has recommended that corporations pursuing net zero targets must not be allowed to make fresh investments in fossil fuels, must be asked to present short-term emission reduction goals on the path to achieving net zero, must bring an end to all activities that lead to deforestation. It has also recommended creation of a regulatory structures and standards as soon as possible. This is actually the need of the hour. If this is developed, then whoever is trying to do greenwashing, it will reduce. So that is all about greenwashing, which we needed to understand. And this is it from today's session. I hope this new format in which I am, not so much visible, but now I am, is I would say suiting you. The main agenda should be learning, and we are trying our best as soon as possible. Somewhere around 9th of December, we're going to be back with the older format in which I will be teaching you on the digital panel. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. I'm not going to repeat it today. I'm going to meet you tomorrow with more such informative news pieces and articles. Namaste. Jai Hind.